I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Brad Pylan, and I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid of North Carolina, and specifically, I work in the Disaster Relief Project. And over the next weeks and months, we're going to be producing videos just like this one that are geared towards um, helping disaster nonprofits, but also it could be relevant to nonprofits in general. And we're going to go over an array of topics. Um, Such as nonprofit formation, board training, fundraising, etc. But today we're starting at the beginning with a question I get often and invariably comes up at a lot of points in a group's formation, and it is, should we be a 501c3? Uh, and just as an introduction, most community groups start with an idea that addresses a need. In the context of disaster relief groups, the need is recovery. A storm hits, impacts the community, and the need becomes pretty apparent. But at some point in the group's journey, they will likely ask, should we be a 501c3? And first, we'll start with what is a nonprofit. There can be confusion over this, but simply, it is a legal entity. You can become a nonprofit corporation simply by filing with the Secretary of State. It provides a level of protection for board members and officers, but it's simply a legal entity. As for a 501c3, it is a designation that comes from the IRS. You do have to be a nonprofit in North Carolina before you can file for 501c3 status. And it provides tax exemption for the group and donors. It's often a requirement for grants. This is the big thing we run into. And often when organizations are trying to decide whether to move forward or not, this is a big consideration. And also it carries with it a certain level of prestige. As we will go into the next few weeks, there are steps and monies involved that are required to get the organization going. So it does require a level of financial commitment and also time just to get the organization running. And it's often referred to as the gold standard of a nonprofit. And it is, there's more money, more responsibility. But that's generally why people will go and file for a 501c3. It gives them the access to more funds. And so whenever this question comes up, I start by asking very basic questions. The first thing I'll ask is, what need or goal are you seeking to address / accomplish? Not all goals are necessary or money is necessary to accomplish these goals. Sometimes it's simple organization. Even in the context of disaster relief groups, it just depends what aspect of disaster relief you're trying to address. Is your problem a short or long-term problem? And is there another group that's already doing this? Often I'll hear about a lot of groups that want to start a group when there's similar organizations and already in the area, in the county, or the broader community. And invariably what you'll find is that, you will be competing with another group that may be more established. It's, likely to get the funding. So that's something to keep in mind. And when I bring this up, especially in the context of the other groups, ask you to think, like a business in this regard. I just always bring up the example, does this town really need another coffee shop? It's great that you really like coffee and feel strongly about coffee, but there's already 50 here. So that's something always to keep in mind as well. And however, saying that, and especially in the context of disaster relief, many groups do need money. Disaster recovery, a lot of what the groups do is they help repair and rebuild homes, and that costs money, and there's no way around that. The next question I ask is, who will help you accomplish this goal? It can't be done alone. The first board and officers are critically important, and experience matters. People who have been here before, have done it before. Disaster relief helps if they have experience with that, but just simple experience with nonprofits. It's something that, nobody starts with, knowing how to run a nonprofit. You have to start at some point, but it does help if you do have experience, on the board. It can help, really guide the organization, especially in those early days. And I just say a group's only as strong as the people in it. A great idea will not carry the day, and commitments will wane. And also too, people get tired, especially in this line of work. It can be draining. And so you want to have people that really are committed. And I think the number one question I will ask, especially if someone has said, look, with our current arrangement, or the current way we're operating, we, want more funds and believe we want to file for a 501c3. I'll ask them who their treasurer is. A 501c3, with it, again, you get the opportunity to, I guess, get more money, but there are a lot more reporting requirements, and the role of the treasurer becomes critically important. So that's why I often bring up, if this is not the arrangement already, that maybe the way to go is to, see if you can find a fiscal sponsor. It's a way to learn the ropes and then just learn more about, how to run, a nonprofit organization if you really don't have that experience. And then perhaps the most important question that, like I said, it may seem a little ethereal, but, it's just, why do you want to do this? Ask, is it to feel like a good person? Is it your picture in the paper? And the reason I bring this up is commitment is the key. And, if it's any of these, above reasons, unless you really, really want your picture in the paper, at some point, unless the desire to help is genuine, that, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, your commitment will wane, you'll get tired, and you have to find something else that will pull you through. And I think a genuine desire to help and a commitment to the community you're in is the strongest reason for wanting to help in these groups and start these groups. And, I bring up too, it's hard work. Ask anyone who started a nonprofit or ask a small business owner. It's not something that just happens overnight. And I tell people it's not a field of dreams scenario. You still have to build it, but they might come. They're not required to come. And so this is just something to keep in mind, that although you have a good idea and a genuine desire to help, there's still a lot of work that has to go into it. And even at that point, it's unclear whether it may work out. But these are all considerations to keep in mind at the beginning before you even think about, starting the process. But if you answer all these questions, in the best ways and believe you have a genuine need you care about, a good board, and you have the commitment to carry that through, then you start the steps of actually forming a nonprofit. And in the coming weeks, we will go into more detail about how you go about doing that. And this presentation, as well as other resources we have, we're compiling on the web for access if you have any more interest. Our main disaster page for the disaster relief group is just simply at legalaidnc.org/disaster. And the materials from this presentation and other related materials will be on the /disaster group site. And as always, if you believe you need any help or know anyone that does, our hotline number is placed below as well. So I thank anyone who watched this, and if you have any questions, just let us know, and we'll see you again soon.